of you and your family and your friends and their family and the members of your gang, then if he's got to go, he's got to go. It's as simple as that. It's the law of the jungle, you know. It's the way it's got to be. And if ever people think that's a ruthless mentality, no, it's survival.
To this day, James Brodie has not been found, dead or alive. One man was jailed for the murder of Marion Bates and 2 others for robbery. The police did not have enough evidence to bring any charges against Colin Gunn. But then, Colin Gunn already knew that. During the investigation of the Bestwood gang, Nottinghamshire police quickly discovered that a sickening suspicion was becoming reality, that corrupt colleagues were working for Colin Gunn's organised crime network and feeding back damaging information that was putting lives at risk.
Hello.
Hey, mate.
Hi, mate.
When we were mounting a number of operations, our intelligence at the time was what we considered to be of excellent quality, and some of the operations actually returned as nothing. We didn't find what we expected to find, and didn't find people where we expected to find them. And when that happens over a period of time, you tend to suspect that information is being passed.
Did you get my message? Did you have a chance to...
I will be today, so, yeah.
Did you say nothing had come of that as far as you knew?
Yeah, no, we've been working on it. Nothing's come of it. Got no evidence.
Any names come up?
Yeah, we've got names, but it's fucking worth calling it.
I think we'd always suspected that Colin Gunn and his associates were being provided information around police activity and police operations from within our own organisation.
That's being clever, you know. At the end of the day, it's called watching the back, isn't it? It's having someone in the other camp. It's no different than what goes in the world with spies. Don't we stick spies in other camps? Don't we stick our people in Russia, you know, China, you know? Same thing, innit? It's having a spy in another camp to watch out, let you know what's going on.
To have the kind of organisation that Colin Gunn and his henchmen had, they could only sustain that by corrupting people. And I think any chief constable who said, I've got organised crime, but I haven't got a corruption problem, I think is deluding him or herself. So, you know, it was part of my professional assessment and my colleagues' professional assessment that we would find it.
He had access to people in the council, in the police, in social services, in the health service, all of whom were willing to give information about the whereabouts of somebody. So you could place somebody into witness protection, but unless that was firewalled, those people were going to be found.
I knew that somewhere out there were corrupt police officers who, if we didn't catch and stop and put in prison, the guns would continue to sustain themselves.
IT experts quickly established which computer was being used to rifle through sensitive files. It belonged to a rookie detective called Charles Fletcher, a long-time friend of the Gunn family. Soon police would tap his phone calls and bug the room he worked in.
I mean, we've got someone's foot blown off, balaclavaed up, but we've got no forensic, and he's not playing. I mean, he knows who fucking shot him. Yeah. He knows without a shadow of a doubt, but he's not going to put himself in that situation.
No, that's right.
Because he'll get killed next time.
Yeah, he doesn't want to do it again.
No.
Detective Constable Fletcher was phoning a mate at an upmarket clothes shop where he used to work. His contact, Jason Grocock, was also a friend of Colin Gunn. Fletcher gave him information from various police computer systems and filled him in on Operation Stealth.
What we're going to say to you anyway, yeah, I can talk now because there's people in the office. Stealth and those operations like that, we'll keep everything dead secret anyway because I don't want anyone to public to know.
I just felt really, really betrayed. I mean, I knew Charlie Fletcher personally, and for me, this was just, you know, the ultimate betrayal, I think, to me, my colleagues in the police service, that somebody can pass the information that we hold into a criminal network, putting people's lives and safety at risk, not only of the public but of my officers. It hurts.
I saw Charles Fletcher, yes, as a corrupt police officer, yes, as a contemptible individual, but I primarily saw him as another front we could open up on Colin Gunn. And, you know, you can put all the kind of moralising around the fact there was a corrupt cop in there if you want, but the key bit was he was an opportunity to bring down Colin Gunn, and that was the biggest game in town as far as I was concerned.
Chief Constable Steve Green decided to set up a secret operation nested within stealth, but known only to a trusted few. He needed a band of untouchables beyond corruption. Project Starburst, created to dismantle the Bestwood crime gang, was housed in a nondescript industrial unit away from force headquarters. National Crime Squad officers were brought in to help, and within Starburst were hidden two even more secret operations, one to target Colin Gunn, the other to deal with corrupt cops.
There was a relatively small core of people, maybe not more than 50 in total, who worked under incredible pressure, who worked amazingly long hours, whose families saw precious little of them, but they were the people who kept this thing going day after day after day between 2003 and 2005. They were in no doubt that if they were identified while this thing was going on, that their own lives and their own families' lives could be at risk.
Starburst employed sophisticated surveillance techniques used to combat terrorist gangs in Northern Ireland. Phones were tapped, mobile calls tracked, and the #1 target followed on camera from a series of secret locations. Police began to uncover the complexity of the gun empire.
What people don't realise, that these people are doing it as a legit business, like a company. Everyone's got their job. It's like the people on the floor. It's like foremen's charge engines. Everyone's got their place, and everyone has to do what they're told.
The way that Colin and David Gunn operated was quite sophisticated. Colin Gunn was the head of the organisation. His own brother was in charge of part of the organisation but had no knowledge of what was going on elsewhere. So if you look at it, they would operate in silos, really. You'd have somebody, i.e. David, in charge of supplying amphetamine, somebody else supplying heroin and cocaine, somebody else dishing out punishment beatings and intimidation, but none of them would be aware of who was involved in the other bit. So they kept it separate, which made their organisation really difficult to penetrate.
Every army needs a general, and with a general comes your lieutenants, your sergeants, and it's rank. It's rank. And you've got to have your soldiers. You can't have too many leaders because you'll clash and it'll all go wrong. So obviously he was a good leader and he had good soldiers. Do you know what I mean? But he kept everyone in order.
To get to the top of the organisation, i.e. Colin Gunn and a few other trusted individuals, we had to take away the foot soldiers, take away the layers of their organisation to bring them down to a position that made them vulnerable.
Among the activities Charlie Fletcher was engaged in, a search for John and Joan Sterland. There was no operational reason why he should have been looking for them. In the event, he found nothing on the systems he could access. In December 2003, the Sterlands moved from Yorkshire to a bungalow on the east coast in the Lincolnshire seaside town of Trusthorpe. They had declined witness protection and chosen the spot themselves. They didn't know it was very close to where the Gunn family had a holiday home and a caravan. Mrs. Sterland's son, Michael O'Brien, who tried to kill Colin Gunn's nephew and shot his best friend instead, was about to go on trial and fuel still further Gunn's desire for revenge. When maverick gunman Michael O'Brien tried to shoot dead a member of a much-feared crime family, he sparked a chain of events that was to lead to a double murder which horrified the country. O'Brien had fallen out with pub doorman Jamie Gunn, nephew of organised crime lord Colin Gunn. But in the dark, O'Brien had killed Jamie's best friend, Marvin Bradshaw, instead. The police got to O'Brien before Gunn's gang could find him, but O'Brien's mother and stepfather were forced to flee Nottingham and go into hiding after an attempt on their lives. On July the 12th, 2004, O'Brien was convicted of murder. His behaviour in the dock was to make matters much worse for his parents.
The court descended into chaos. as Michael O'Brien made various taunts at Marvin Bradshaw's family, which included gross comments about how Marvin Bradshaw's head looked like a donut after he'd shot him. He threw a cup of water over the family and said, "I'm a bad boy, you know, I can do 20 years standing on my head." And he also pointed to Colin Gunn and made a gesture that implied that there was a bullet waiting for him as well, at which point Colin Gunn erupted and had to be escorted from the courtroom.
Jamie Gunn never recovered from the events that cost his best friend his life. He had cradled him in his arms during his dying moments. Jamie had slipped into drug addiction and illness. 3 weeks after O'Brien was jailed, Jamie Gunn died. Meanwhile, corrupt detective Charlie Fletcher sprang into action, again trying to find out where O'Brien's parents, John and Joan Sterland, were hiding. There was still no trace of them on the police computer. Colin Gunn turned to other intelligence sources. 2 BT employees came up with an address, unaware of why it was wanted, at Trusthorpe in Lincolnshire. Suddenly, Colin Gunn went on holiday.
Detectives are investigating the shootings of a couple thought to be in their 50s and from Nottinghamshire. They'd only moved to the coast a few months ago.
Two men dressed in dark boiler suits, each carrying a handgun of some kind, went into the home address. Mr. Sterland was in the living room, Mrs. Sterland was in the bedroom. Mr. Sterland shot 6 times, Mrs. Sterland 4 times, and both guns were used on both victims.
It was early-ish, say 2-ish, maybe out just a little after we heard these 2 bangs. We thought might have been the Coast Guard, with the lifeguards off to sort someone out in difficulty, but it turned out it was gunshots.
The 2 men walked out of the address, walked calmly to a nearby car, Volkswagen Passat. That was previously stolen. It was driven to a remote location 3 or 4 miles away. The car and, we assumed, the boiler suits, gloves that would have been worn, and anything else was set on fire and destroyed. And from there, the 2 men dispersed by car.
Murder squad detectives already knew there was a Nottingham link. On the day of the murders, Joan Sterland had phoned Nottinghamshire police to report a prowler in her garden. They in turn called Lincolnshire police. By the time they turned out, the couple were dead.
In essence, what the officer thought he was attending was a historic report of a prowler. Clearly, in hindsight, there was a lot more to it than that, but that's what would have been in the officer's mind when he attended that address.
As investigators learned the whole story, their attention turned to Colin Gunn.
While you could have a reasonably good idea at whose behest it may have taken place, proving that is quite a different matter. So it was a whodunit, but it wasn't a complete mystery.
The killers had been careful to leave behind little forensic evidence. Police would have to find another way to solve these murders. Days after the hit, Detective Fletcher received urgent new instructions from his gangland contact. He was to check police computers for anything about the Sterland investigation, the burned-out car, and whether Colin Gunn's name was in the frame. But with another force handling the murder inquiry, he was struggling.
That whole investigation's been run by Lincolnshire now. Nothing over here, so for me to find out anything about that, I'd have to ring Lincoln, and then the thing would be the fucking hell yeah.
The week of the murders was also the week of Jamie Gunn's funeral. It was an impressive show of solidarity for the Gunn family as hundreds lined the streets for the occasion.
It was actually teeming down with rain that day, and yet there were probably 1,000 people littered around the streets looking at this funeral, the black horse-drawn variety, and there was a real air of menace as well. There were a lot of people who probably never even met the lad, who were willing to come and pay their respects because that was what was expected. Certainly notes had gone round